You've heard it before, right? Boomers are retiring, making room for the next generation. But if you're a part of Gen Z, you know that couldn't be further from the truth. Instead of watching older generations step aside, you're seeing them cling to their desks, refusing to leave the workforce. And if you think it's just a personal choice, think again. This mass refusal to retire is having a massive impact on your future. Let's break it down. It's no secret that baby boomers, the generation born between 1946 and 1964, have been the backbone of the workforce for decades. But now, something's happening that no one predicted. They're not retiring. According to the latest stats, more boomers are working well into their 60s and even their 70s. You'd think they'd be heading for the golf course by now, right? But here's the twist. Instead, they're staying in the workforce longer than ever, and that's creating a bottleneck. And who's stuck waiting for their chance? You guessed it. Gen Z. The generation that's hungry for opportunities, trying to find their footing in an economy that's already stacked against them. So, what's really going on here? It's not just about wanting to keep working. For many boomers, retirement is no longer a viable option. The economic landscape has drastically shifted. The cost of living has skyrocketed, pensions have disappeared, and retirement savings aren't stretching as far as they used to. In fact, studies show that many boomers feel financially insecure in their retirement years, which is forcing them to hold on to their jobs longer. But here's where it gets interesting. Boomers aren't just staying for financial reasons. A good portion of them love the work. After decades of climbing the corporate ladder, they've developed an identity tied to their job. Work is more than a paycheck. It's purpose. And while this makes perfect sense for them, the reality is that it's trapping Gen Z in a workforce that's already overcrowded, underpaid, and underprepared for the next generation of leaders. For Gen Z, this is more than just a mild inconvenience. It's a crisis. Every time a boomer refuses to retire, they're taking up space that could be filled with fresh talent, new ideas, and innovative energy. Gen Z has fought tooth and nail to get the education, experience, and skills required to succeed in the modern workforce. But they're facing an impossible uphill battle. With boomers holding on to their positions, the job market has become a game of musical chairs. But guess what? The music's still playing, and no one's getting up. And let's not even mention the fact that the boomers in these roles are often not mentoring Gen Z, leaving young employees with little guidance. This lack of mentorship means that opportunities for growth and career advancement are often blocked, even when Gen Z is more than capable of stepping up. This isn't just a problem of job scarcity. There's also a massive generational divide. Gen Z sees the world differently. They've grown up in an era of rapid technological change, social movements, and a shifting economy. They understand that work isn't just about punching in hours. It's about making an impact, balancing personal well-being, and achieving a sense of purpose. Boomers, however, grew up in a different environment. For them, work was about stability, loyalty, and commitment to a single company for life. This fundamental difference in values is causing serious friction. Gen Z's desire for flexibility, work-life balance, and creative freedom clashes with boomers' more traditional mindset. This disconnect is holding back the collaboration and innovation that companies need to thrive in today's world. Now, when Gen Z raises these issues, boomers often come back with some familiar arguments.
When I was your age, I had to work hard to get where I am. You just have to put in the time.
Hard work is never the issue. The problem is the system has changed. The opportunities that boomers had, secure jobs, pensions, affordable housing, simply aren't there anymore. Gen Z is working harder than ever, but the economic conditions have drastically shifted and the rules of the game have changed.
You're entitled. You want everything handed to you. Work for your spot, just like I did.
Gen Z isn't asking for things to be handed to them. They're asking for opportunity. The system is rigged in favor of those who've already made it. The corporate ladder isn't built for new talent anymore. It's stacked against them, with boomers holding positions that should have been passed down.
I'm not going to retire because I love what I do. You should learn to love your work, too.
Loving what you do is a privilege and a luxury. Gen Z doesn't have the same job security or benefits that boomers had. Many Gen Z workers are stuck in jobs they don't love, trying to make ends meet. They're not rejecting work. They're rejecting the idea that they should suffer through work because they have no other choice.
You want to work remotely or have a flexible schedule, but that's not how the real world works.
The world is changing, and the workforce needs to evolve with it. Gen Z knows that the old ways of doing business aren't enough. But if boomers keep clinging to their seats at the table, they risk stifling the very innovations that could drive us forward. So, what can Gen Z do about it? Gen Z isn't waiting for boomers to retire. Half are rejecting the system and finding ways to escape the slavery that modern work has become. Some may argue in the comments that comparing slavery to a job is insane. But how would you define slavery? From a quick Google search, slavery is the practice of forcing people to work and limiting their freedom. That is an extremely accurate description of what Gen Z is living right now. Younger people are forced to work to just survive. Not only that, their freedoms are limited by their financial struggles. More than half of Gen Z ages 22 to 34 are still living with their parents even after getting college degrees. Considering most young adults are taught and encouraged to become independent from boomers, this proves their narrow-minded thinking wrong. But there's another layer to this problem. Mental health. As cringe as it sounds, Gen Z is the most stressed and anxious generation in history, is struggling under the weight of high expectations, limited opportunities, and an economy that's been rigged for decades. The pressure to succeed is emphasized by boomers staying in the workforce and blaming everyone but themselves for the current state of how it is entering the job force. Gen Z doesn't just face competition from their peers. They face competition from a generation that refuses to give up their high-paying roles. It's pushing the younger generation into poverty, which has led to less trust in the system and, more importantly, no hope for a future. Let's be real. Boomers don't care about Gen Z. Sure, they may say things like, "You just need to work harder," but they don't seem to understand or care about the system that they've helped create. The job market they've built is an exclusive club that they refuse to leave. Instead of creating space for Gen Z, they keep clinging to their high-paying, stable positions and leave the younger generation with scraps and expect them to be happy about it. Gen Z doesn't just face competition from their peers. They face competition from a generation that refuses to give up their roles. Boomers aren't even acknowledging how their actions are contributing to this crisis. It's pushing the younger generation into poverty, where they struggle to get ahead no matter how hard they work. And the worst part? It's led to less trust in the system and, more importantly, no hope for the future. The very system boomers uphold is the same one that is denying Gen Z a real shot at success. And with each day that boomers stay in these roles, they deepen the sense of frustration and hopelessness in the younger generation. This isn't just a matter of jobs, it's about progress. When boomers refuse to retire, it's not just preventing Gen Z from finding a job. It's preventing them from even getting the opportunity to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, as many boomers like to say. Gen Z is fed up with the boomers' disregard for anyone but themselves, and I believe that soon society will feel the consequences of this in the next 5 to 10 years.